So we've learned the Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys, have completed an interview. Not with Deion Sanders. No. No, they've gone above Deion Sanders. They have completed an interview with Brian Schottenheimer. Say what? Yeah, Brian Schottenheimer for the vacant head coaching job. We are told that the interview took 3.5 hours. What could they possibly have talked about for 3.5 hours? I don't know about you. I've been in a few job interviews over the years. None of them have lasted 3.5 hours. They sit down and watch cartoons? What were they doing for 3.5 hours? I'd love to know. Anyway, if you look at the big board, this marks not 1, not 2, not 3. How about number 4? Number 4 is on the door. That's the 4th interview. You had Kellen Moore virtually, Robert Saleh, more on him in a minute, and Leslie Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Now, Deion Sanders, a popular pick by popular people, is not on that list, despite canoodling. Now, would anyone be surprised if Jerry has stealth bomber-like interviewed Deion Sanders? He'd take some drone and flown over to Colorado and had a chat with Deion. Nobody would be shocked by that. But the name of the day, not to be confused with the soup of the day or the special of the day, the name of the day, a la carte, is Brian Schottenheimer, as the Cowboys dining al fresco outside with Brian Schottenheimer, who was on the Cowboy coaching staff. He was listed as the offensive coordinator, but Mike McCarthy did all the heavy lifting, and he's being considered for both the head coach, we are told, and offensive coordinator positions in Dallas. So let us discuss the question: how do you classify the latest reporting that Jerry Jones has spoken and interviewed Brian Schottenheimer, the spawn of Marty Schottenheimer, for the Cowboy coaching job? So I've got Arcade, Mafia, and Tree Hugger. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make a clay doll Gumby. Gumby. You might not know who that is, but was popular back in the day. All right, so A, you do not have to be Jay Glazer or Adam Schefter to know that this name, Brian Schottenheimer, does not move the needle. Does not move the needle. Like, what are we doing here? You're the Dallas bleeping Cowboys. In fact, that name is so disgusting, it makes me want to puke in my mouth. Kellen Moore, Robert Saleh, Leslie Frazier, and Brian Schottenheimer. Tell me you're not even trying without telling me you're not even trying. What are we doing? Brian Schottenheimer is the kind of guy that the Colts would hire, or the Bengals. He's a jack is what he is. Just a coach. That's what he is. Nothing special. Has over 20 years in the game. It's good to be the son of an NFL coach. So the younger Schottenheimer, Brian Schottenheimer, over 20 years coaching. He's had multiple stints with multiple franchises as offensive coordinator, 4 different teams. None of them he left a mark on. We used to goof on him when he was with the Jets, but who doesn't? So he's a nepotism baby. He's Bronny James is what he is. He's a nepo baby. Now, Jerry is running this coaching search like he's at the arcade. He's had a couple of shots of whiskey or whatever. He's blindfolded, and he's playing the claw machine, and he's attempting to get the big stuffy to be the coach of the Cowboys. This conversation, well, it's just, we'll talk about whatever's going on here, but it's just like you're drawing a blank. It's like, what are you doing? Even for due diligent purposes, it's bad for fan morale. Schottenheimer has no business being a head coach, certainly not of a glamour franchise, allegedly, like the Cowboys, but it makes no sense. Even to hire him, some people are saying, well, they just interviewed him to hire him as the offensive coordinator, and that gets on your nerves too. And I have no skin in the game. I'm not a Cowboy fan, but you follow the chain of command. You hire the head coach, and then the head coach, they're the ones that pick the offensive coordinator, not vice versa. It's like you're counting your chickens before they hatch here, and it's a bad job by you. So I understand. I'm a Cowboy supporters, Cowboy loyalists are going on a wild ride here. They're being taken into the Winnie the Pooh world, and they are playing the role of Eeyore, and they're becoming even more miserable and pessimistic. They're like the donkey, very much so. Question everything, and you must be a skeptic about all of Jerry's plans. Is he really going to hire another sock puppet? Is Dave Campo still around? Can they bring him back? Can they go back in the Wayback Machine? Well, the Clapper's on TV every Sunday. They can bring him back. Clap on, clap off, the Clapper. He's available. He's on TV. All right, now, page 2. So elsewhere, as we span the globe to bring you the latest on the coaching carousel, Mike McCarthy. Did you see this? Mike McCarthy supposed to interview with the Saints, but that was delayed by the southern blast of cold, snowy weather that hit the southern United States below the Mason-Dixon line. So Mike McCarthy's trip was delayed to the Bayou. However, he is the betting favorite, McCarthy, to get the job in Nolans. This after the Bears snatched Ben Johnson. This is the only gig Mike McCarthy, the only one that Mike McCarthy has been prominently mentioned for or isn't even being considered for at this point. Now, do you think that Mike McCarthy is nervous? Do you think he's nervous about being shut out on this go-round of the coaching cycle? So I will play psychologist, something that we have to do when you have a talk show. So I believe the concern level is very small, marginal. Here's why. By all accounts, at this point, when you read the room, Mike McCarthy is still in the pole position. Now, he was in the pole position for the Bears job, and then he lost the race. But he was, for a while, he was in the pole position there. So you could lose this job too. Plus, and this is the main point when you talk about Mike McCarthy, is he's financially set. 18 years, cartoon-sized NFL head coach checks. New Orleans is not a great job. It's not. The roster blows. It's a piecemeal organization. If Mike McCarthy goes to a place like New Orleans and sucks at a time you cannot suck, guess what? It doesn't matter. Right? He's a made man anyway. Whether he gets the job or not, success in the football world is assured. He's a fully initiated member of the NFL Mafia, which means whether he gets this job or not, he'll either get some no-show, decently paying consulting job in the NFL, or he'll draw a line over to some TV job somewhere. Or my favorite now is a podcast. Everyone wants to do audio content, and he can do a podcast. But either way, he's going to get a gig that'll pay him a decent amount while he treads water and waits for another head coaching job to open up with his name on it. All right, last word. We now go to Minnesota. We peel back the onion, and we step further into the Viking ship where Coach Kevin O'Connell has agreed to a multi-year contract extension, avoiding duck status, lame duck status. He had 1 year left, and he had made a deal with the devil. He was upset the Vikings wouldn't extend him last year, so he ends up staying on the sidelines in the Twin Cities. So what is the life lesson? All right, what is the life lesson of Kevin O'Connell's Vikings extension? You're probably saying, wow, there's no life lesson. You're just talking out of your tuchus with the life lesson. What's wrong with you? But there is a life lesson here. There's a couple of them. Lesson number one, the playoffs don't matter. All right, the Vikings absolutely embarrassed themselves. They ran into a hurricane in their underwear. They were not prepared. They were not showing any sense of urgency, even though they were down by a gazillion points to the Rams. They were seemingly running out the clock. And despite that, and many people getting on their soapbox saying, what is Kevin O'Connell doing? Clearly, the organization was just happy to make the playoffs, and they were blaming it on Sam Darnold and not O'Connell on the Houdini act of exiting the playoffs stage left against the Rams. Lesson number two. This is a teachable moment. Lesson number two. Timing matters. Timing matters. And also being an environmentalist, being a tree hugger matters. Because when you're a tree hugger, you have to plant trees. Ergo, a very well-timed leak. A very well-timed leak from Kevin O'Connell's camp, whether it was his agent or someone else, to Jay Glazer, right before the final Sunday of the NFL season was going to kick off. Remember, it was on the Fox pregame show, and Jay Glazer had the story that there was a story that had been planted inside Jay's phone, that the other NFL teams were plotting to try to trade for Kevin O'Connell and get him out of Minnesota. Oh, man, that was a big story. So that, clearly a plant, right? That fairy tale on the NFL pregame show was meant to put some pressure on the Viking ownership, the people that call the shots there. And it worked, right? Spoiler alert, it hit the center of the bullseye. Right there. Boom. Center shot. Bullseye. So Kevin O'Connell is signed, sealed, and delivered. All the T's have been crossed. The I's have been dotted on the DocuSign. So now we'll see whether or not he has the Midas touch or the Saddam touch with J.J. McCarthy, whether it's lost in translation or better days are ahead for the Minnesota Vikings, a player that had essentially a redshirt year, right? J.J. McCarthy got hurt, didn't play. Supposedly learned while watching. We'll see if that pays off or not. We'll see.